functional threshold power is the theoretical maximum power that you could sustain for 1 hour. And it's pretty much the gold standard of measuring someone's ability on a bike. Except that all it really does is tell you how much power you can sustain for 1 hour. And admittedly, when you know your weight, you can work out your power to weight ratio, and therefore you can calculate how fast you can climb hills of 1 hour. And if you know how much aerodynamic drag you can create, you can also work out how fast you could ride on the flat for 1 hour. But I've been starting to wonder whether other people's physiology means that actually FTP is kind of meaningless. Because you can have amazing sprint numbers, amazing 1 minute power, but not a very good FTP, but still win big bike races. And you could do amazing things for 20 minutes and still not have an amazing FTP. And equally, you could have an okay FTP and do amazing things for 24 hours and beyond. So, is it actually all it's cut out to be? Now, I actually don't know the answer to this, not even by a long shot. So we are once again bringing in Louis Passfield, Professor of Sports Science and our favourite pragmatic scientist. Louis Passfield, a genie. Yes. Yeah, there we go. Right, Louis, let's go straight in there. FTP, is it effectively meaningless for most cyclists?
I would say FTP is not meaningless.
Okay.
So the interesting thing about FTP is it occurs from a physiological point of view at in a really interesting region of our physiology.
Okay.
And so there's an awful lot that we can infer from the FTP. But I suspect you're interested in far more than just that pragmatic response.
Well, yeah, because as I've already explained to the viewers, I think there are variations in riders' physiologies that mean that actually an FTP, all it really seems to do is say how far or how fast they can go for 1 hour, when actually they can do amazing things either for shorter durations or longer durations, irrespective of FTP. So if they're trying to use FTP as the marker by which they base their training, actually maybe they're missing out.
Actually, you're absolutely right, and there's a couple of good ways of thinking about this. The first is you could produce your FTP power in a couple of different ways physiologically. So
right.
One of the things to bear in mind is an FTP is a number, but how you've produced that FTP is not really very clear.
Okay.
And that might tell you, if you knew the answer to that, which obviously you can't tell from an FTP because you've just got one number, that might help you with your training. The other thing is that FTP, as you've said, is a reference point of 1 hour's performance. Now, if you're interested in preparing for an effort or an event that's less than that, or significantly longer than that, then your physiology could shift quite dramatically in those different regions of your performance. And again, the FTP isn't going to capture that.
Okay.
Now, if we take, for example, a road race situation or a mountain bike situation or something where explosive power could be really quite important, and especially can help you with race-winning moves, FTP is going to tell you nothing about that at all.
No. So is there a way we can actually illustrate this point then, that FTP isn't the be-all and end-all for measuring a rider's ability?
Well, yes, we could. So in a hypothetical experiment, we could get someone to do an FTP test, and we could also get them to do a sprint test as well. So now we've got two pieces of information, really quite different from each other. And the likelihood is that every rider will differ in both of those measurements.
Okay.
But then we could get them to do the same training session, perhaps some kind of repeated intervals, and see how well they cope. And we can see whether the FTP explains those results or the sprint session explains their results.
Okay. Well, now, endurance athletes are to a penny around here at GCN, but I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be able to find you a sprinter, Louis. Dan's pretty woeful, I'm even worse, and Emma, I think I can probably say, is quite bad at sprinting as well. In fact, she once won a race, a World Cup, admittedly, from the gun, because I think her sprint is so bad. We'll have to think outside the box. Well, thanks for volunteering, Blake. Do you want to put a shirt on? Because I feel quite inadequate, but...
It's quite hot in here, so I thought I didn't want to get sweaty.
Fair enough, it is quite hot in here. Anyway, mate, thank you very much. Have you ever done a fitness test before?
Never have I done one, no.
So you must be really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I heard the FPT is hard.
No, you'd be fine, you'd be fine. Yeah,
okay.
Anyway, so first one is a sprint test, which I expect you're going to smash.
I like that.
And then it's the FTP test, which is really easy, and I think you're going to smash that as well.
You think?
Oh, pretty much guaranteed. No, seriously, have you done anything like this before?
No, I've never done anything like this before.
Okay.
No, I'm all about explosive power, being in slopestyle, free ride, dirt jump. It's all about banging out stuff, like sprinting.
Yeah.
Endurance, Never.
But you do ride a cross-country bike, you know?
Yeah, I do actually ride a road bike and a bit of cross-country. But that's just to help my fitness.
Yeah, okay. We'll make sure that bit of information doesn't go on GMBN, by the way, just so your reputation's safe. Ready, mate?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go! Go, 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 and stop! What did you get, mate? What did you get?
I wasn't looking.
Oh, 1,450 watts!
Is that good?
Well, put it this way, it's about twice what we could do. Blake, that was seriously impressive, mate. That was some proper wattage.
I think I peaked too early, I reckon.
Well, it looked good from where I was. Actually, no, I probably can't say that considering where I was. But anyway, yeah, moving on. So this is the FTP test, right? So this is where you need to imagine you're riding up a really, really long climb, and so you want to do like a steady intensity, but really hard. So when you get to the top of the climb, you're at max, okay? But so it might feel like a really weird effort. Yeah. Particularly for someone with your background. Yeah. But if you picture that long fire climb on your mountain bike, that's what we're going for, I reckon. You reckon you can do that?
Yeah, I'm not like a good strong climber, so we'll see on this bit.
Well, it's all about whatever works for you. So an FTP test hurts the same for everyone. Like you can't try harder than someone else. You just do what you can do, and then we'll see what the numbers are at the end.
Okay.
All right then, so FTP test starts now. Blake, you ready?
Ready.
Okay, mate, find your effort, and let's go. 3, 2, 1. Whew. There we go.
You got that for 20 minutes?
Yep. That's it. That's it. 3 minutes to go. Just try and keep that tempo nice and even. Great job, mate. Great job. There we go. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. Mate, that was absolutely champion. Nailed it. You nailed it. That was cool, mate. That was proper cool. The good news, Blake, is that you've done your FTP test.
Yes,
the bad news is that Louis asked for just something else.
What?
Yeah, so it's all right. 30 seconds, three times. With 30 seconds recovery in between.
3 times, 1 minute.
Apparently it's going to show us something.
Oh, haven't I showed enough? All my sweat.
Yeah, so we've got you to do those tests, the FTP test and the sprint test, so we can see how fit you are. But of course, the main reason for doing this is to also set out your training intensities too.
Okay, this should be interesting.
Now you're warmed up, we'd like you to do a training session. And because you've done quite a bit already, we'll cut it short. So I'll just get you to do 3 interval efforts rather than perhaps 10 or more for today.
Right,
and what I'd like you to do is to do a 30-second effort on, 30 seconds off.
Okay.
And repeat that 3 times. 3, 2, 1, and go. That's good, 30 seconds, come on. Well done, Blake, keep it going now. Keep it hard. Keep it going. And that's halfway through your first effort. Come on. That's good. You're training now. Nearly there. Last 5 seconds. Come on. And 3, 2, 1. Okay. And now nice and easy. Recover. Get your breath back. You haven't lost any breath. And I'll count you in again. 3, 2, 1, go! That's good, come on. Bit harder this time.
Yeah, come on, mate.
That's good. Well done.
That's some big power, mate, come on.
Keep it going. Halfway through this effort, well done. That's looking good.
Go, go, go. Go on, mate.
Well done, last 5 seconds so you can lift it. Counting down, 3, 2, 1, and stop. So nice and easy. Oh, he is breathing this time. ready to go in 3, 2, 1. Smash it!
Go on, mate. Go, go,
That's
go,
good.
go, go.
Excellent.
Good effort, mate.
Keep this effort going.
Good.
Well done. That's brilliant. Keep it going. You're halfway there. Go on. Yellow flag's just coming up. Well done. Keep it going, Blake. Last 5 seconds. Go on. And counting down in 3, 2, 1, and stop. Well done. Great effort. Good session.
Fantastic, mate.
That's good training. Well done.
Oh man, nearly fainted. Are you ready?
Just about, mate.
Yeah, you
Just
warmed
about.
up.
Very warm. Yeah, I've only been here for 30 seconds.
You've put me through my pain levels. I'm going to put you through yours and
All right, mate.
see what numbers you come out with, because I'm all new to this, so I want to see the difference between.
There's going to be some big
Endurance.
differences straight off the bat with the sprint power, let's put it that way. But,
Do you need me to hold down the bike?
No, I probably don't, if I'm completely honest. I just can't put enough power out. Right, let me find my gear and then I'll go for it.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go! Come on! Come on! Come on!
I hit 1,000!
God!
Yes!
What did you get?
1,030.
That's pretty good. Is that good? Well,
It's not the worst I've had, if I'll be
but
completely honest.
That's good. Well done.
There we go.
Right. 3, 2, 1, go. Good luck.
Thanks, mate.
20 minutes.
It's not quite as dramatic as the other one, is it?
No, it's just, well, it's endurance.
Not quite as dramatic.
Exactly. I'll be back in a bit.
You got somewhere better to be?
I was going to make a cup of tea. How's it going? In the zone.
What a sprint!
Goodness me. You're right.
Oh, yeah.
Don't faint.
Right.
Don't.
Still quite the job on GCN, mate.
Yeah. Right, you ready?
I'm ready, mate.
30 seconds.
Okay, stick in the big dog.
Ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go. Go on, son. Come on. Come on. Come on, that's big. Come on. Nearly half. Halfway. Halfway. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. And stop. Blimey. Go. Go on, Si. Come on. You've got it. 15 seconds. Relax. That's it. One more. That's all you got to do. 30 seconds and we're done. You got 15 seconds left of rest. 2, 1, go. Go on, Si. Sit. You're sprinting above. You're in front of the peloton.
Yeah!
It's there.
Yeah!
You can see the finish line.
Yeah!
It's only 15 seconds in front of you. You got it. You got it. That's some big nuts. You got 10 seconds now. Come on. 5 seconds. It's there. You can smell it. But someone's catching you though. Come on. And done. And you win.
Hey, thanks.
Nice. Well done.
Well, I still haven't recovered fully from that. Can I just say as well, it was really hot in there. Like really hot. As it is in here as well, actually. Yeah, anyway, Louis, you've got the results. Hit us with them.
I do, yes. So what we can see here is with Blake, his FTP is 247 watts. Your FTP is 342 watts.
Okay.
So there's a considerable difference there. We're about 100 watts difference between you.
Yeah.
Now, from a training point of view, that would make an enormous difference to the prescription.
Yeah.
But when we look at the sprint situation, your peak power output is quite different.
Yeah.
Now, as you promised, your results look quite dismal in comparison with Blake.
Yeah, as I perhaps suspected.
So you got 1,075 watts.
Okay, it's almost a PB.
Blake powered away 1,450, so 1,450.
Wow.
So now we're seeing somebody who's getting close to 300 watts, 400 watts more powerful than you are.
Yeah.
Big difference there. So then the interesting thing comes to when we did a training session itself with some repeated efforts in it.
Yeah.
Now what we see is if it's based on FTP, you should be reducing 100 watts more in that training session. Than
Yeah. Yeah, because if a training session like that was prescribed, often it might be at 120% of your FTP, isn't it, for 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. Whereas both of us were quite a lot more than 120% of our FTP, weren't we?
You were. So in fact, in the training session, Blake averaged 500 watts and you averaged 550.
Yeah.
So quite clearly the FTP, if we use that for Blake, that's going to considerably underestimate what he's capable of doing. When we look at his sprint performance, we can understand actually how he's able to do that because he's got this great sprint power. He can make up for the difference in the lack of FTP in his sprint performance. You, on the other hand, don't have a sprint to really draw upon. So it's all about your FTP, and therefore you're still able to produce a great 550 watts, but you're doing that all because of your endurance base.
Yeah.
That sprint isn't helping you at all, I'm afraid.
No, it's not, is it? So what's the actual physiology behind that then? I mean, is it something as cliched as slow twitch versus fast twitch muscle fibers, or is it more complicated than that?
It is a little bit more complicated than that. And actually recently we've done a study at the University of Calgary, working with a great guy there, Dr. Juan Murias, and we compared FTP with a physiological test.
Okay.
And one of the gold standards we tend to use is blood lactate responses to exercise.
Yeah.
So there's a concept called the maximum lactate steady state.
Okay.
So it's how much power can you sustain without your lactate shifting from its baseline. It stays at a constant rate throughout the test.
Okay.
And you ride for 30 minutes, so it's a little bit like an FTP test, but here we're looking for an FTP test, if you like, where your lactate doesn't change.
So as in really low intensity?
No, it's not. We're looking for the highest power that you can sustain, where your lactate doesn't drift or wander over the course of that 30 minutes.
Okay, so what we back in the day might have called your lactate threshold, as opposed to your functional threshold power.
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and for some people, those two terms are synonymous. There's a bit of scientific debate about that, which we don't need to get into now. But essentially, this is a physiological measure, and it tells us what's the highest power output you can keep going at which your lactate doesn't drift. After that, you go a little bit higher and it starts to wander up progressively.
Okay.
Now, what we did was we compared the maximal lactate steady state to FTP.
Right.
And they don't quite agree.
Okay.
So what we know is that there's not a strong physiological basis to your FTP. There's something different going on there, but it does reflect your performance. And as I said, in this case, we can see Blake's able to get whatever FTP he can, partly because of his maximal lactate steady state and partly because of his sprint performance. You, on the other hand, sprint performance not contributing so much. But your broad endurance base is what's giving you your fitness.
Okay.
And so the training strategies for you both is likely to be different too.
Okay, so you see, this is why I started down this track in the first place, because it feels like FTP is meaningless except for a certain type of cyclist, which I think conveniently I probably fall into. Now, is it fair to say then that most road cyclists will fall into this same category and therefore FTP is useful, or is it that we've used this broad brush for such a long time that most road cyclists feel like they have to fall into this category?
I think actually the answer lies more when we look at the demands of road racing.
Okay.
So without question, if you want to be a really good road rider, you have to have a good endurance base.
Yeah.
And I think an FTP is a reasonable approximation of that.
Okay.
But if you want to win races, you need to have a particular strength. And so that strength could be to have a phenomenal FTP. But that would mean that you'd have to win races by doing a sustained 1 hour effort at a pace that's beyond that anyone else can.
An Emma Pooley, if you like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there are other ways of winning bike races too. Going up hills fast, which typically don't last an hour.
No.
Or sprinting. And under those circumstances, the FTP isn't going to represent the kind of exercise fitness that you need.
Okay, now what about then if we take non-competitive cycling? So we're looking at, say, Sportifs, Grand Fondos, where it's less important perhaps to ride any one climb at your FTP, but you're looking at the 5-hour event as a whole. Now, if a rider of Blake's ability was to want to do a Grand Fondo, should he then look at building his FTP? And so therefore it's not meaningless, he should still focus on it?
Well, let's answer that question by creating two hypothetical riders at different ends of the fitness continuum in terms of what their physiological profile looks like.
Okay.
So let's have a Mr. Slow Twitch.
Thanks.
And then Blake, who's not here, as Mr. Fast Twitch.
Okay, Mr. Pecs.
Also Mr. Pecs.
Yeah.
They were impressive,
They
weren't they?
were, weren't they? Well, yeah, they were very good.
So, Mr. Slow Twitch here, your strength is already your FTP.
Yeah.
And the question is, do you develop that further so that becomes your outstanding capacity?
Okay.
Or do you work on other aspects of your fitness to bring up areas like your sprint?
Yeah. Okay.
Where there's room for development.
Okay.
With Blake, on the other hand, he's clearly got a tremendous sprint, and you would guess if he's going to win a road race, it's going to come from that and trying to hang on for the rest of the race. So
Yeah.
he hopes that his endurance can cope with that. So for him, maybe there's a benefit to bringing up his endurance by focusing on training that's more closely aligned to the FTP measure. But equally, you could argue, no, he should focus on the strengths that are going to win him that race, and it should really be about the sprint.
Yeah.
And accept that there'll be some races he's just not going to figure in, because if they're really hard, really demanding, then that's a race that he's not going to be successful in.
Okay.
There's one other factor as well that's worth considering here too, which is that training at FTP itself and in that region is sometimes of limited value. So a lot of the elite riders will do a high volume of training, but they can't do it at anywhere close to FTP.
Right.
If you're going to train for 15 hours or more a week, you can't spend a lot of time really pushing hard, but you still want to develop those things that are going to win you races too.
Yeah.
So what they tend to do is to polarize their training by training either at very low intensities or really high intensities. So actually what they look like is they do more sprint-based work, and they might do lots of the kinds of efforts that you and Blake did earlier on in your training session, and then do quite long, steady rides that are nowhere near FTP, so quite a lot lower than the FTP measure that we took today.
So would there be any benefit then to knowing their FTP?
Under those circumstances, it's going to be of limited benefit, really. It's going to be about, if you're going to do a long ride of 3 or 4 hours, what kind of effort can you sustain for that period of time? That's going to be your endurance ride.
Yeah.
And at the other end, it's going to be about really hard maximal efforts for, say, 10 seconds to 1 minute, anywhere in that region. And again, that's nothing to do with your FTP at all.
Okay, so there could be some good news here in that you might not ever have to do an FTP test again. What would be the alternatives? Or do you still have to do FTP tests?
Well, I think the FTP test is a really useful fitness test. So I'm not arguing that we do away with that completely. So I'm afraid you can't get away with that
all
one.
right, fair enough.
It's still going to be a great way of keeping track of your overall fitness. The difference is that we're talking about tracking your fitness compared with prescribing training.
Okay.
And when you're prescribing training, if you feel like you need endurance, you probably need to go quite a bit lower than your FTP. If you're working on those things, those weapons that are going to win you bike races, you're probably looking at quite a bit higher than FTP. And so in either of those circumstances, FTP isn't going to be a useful guide for your training necessarily.
No, so should all riders, whether you're a Mr. Fast Twitch, Mr. Pecs, or a Mr. Slow Twitch, no Pecs, should they look at doing sprint tests and shorter high intensity tests as well as an FTP test to keep a track?
I think if you're serious about your performance and you're really looking to get the best out of yourself, then it would make sense to look beyond just the FTP. So by all means, look at that, look at things that help nudge that up, great, but think more broadly too.
Okay, great stuff. Right, well, rather disappointingly, it seems like FTP is not meaningless, but thank you very much, Louis, for persuading me that that is the case, as opposed to just leaving me to think that actually I was doing the wrong thing for all those years. Anyway, thank you very much, Louis. As always, please give this video a big thumbs up. Say thank you very much to Louis. And if you want to see some of Louis' expert advice, where he was indeed our Genie-us for the day, and very long suffering, so thank you again for that, Louis, then click just down there for that video.